right, we've got our aluminum blank in the lathe in the 3-jaw chuck. I've got it indicated so it's relatively not wobbling, I think within a couple of thou. So what we're going to be doing here is we are going to be facing this off. Then we'll bore it out to a dimension that will fit the threads we're going to put in here. And then we will be doing some other internal bore work that is needed. And then at that point we'll probably start working on the outside. So let's go ahead and get the inside work going. Boring bar mounted up, and gonna open her up to 1.190. Here we go. All right, we finished boring it out, and I actually have done the majority of the threading with my threading tool here. This should be the last pass. We're gonna find out, because right now, if I try to put the barrel nut here in there, it starts, but it is just, come on. I swear it starts. There we go. It starts, oh, but after about a turn or so, it stops. So I'm taking another thou off, and I'm thinking that should do it. Let's find out. Oil. If this guy, whoops, little camera movement there. Oh boy, it went a little farther, did like 3 turns. So let's do it again and add another thou to our depth. All right, let's see. I don't want to lose track, so let's go with, you know what? I'm gonna go half a thou. I'm gonna see what half a thou does. Here we go. Play it safe. Okay. Oh, I think we got it. I want it just a little snug, and that's what we've got. Oh yeah. All right, that goes all the way on, and it's a nice snug fit. Okay, so at this point I'm going to do some outer profiling work, take my profiler and hit the outside. All right, I've already started the outside profiling work. I've taken it down so I can get a good measurement. So we're going to bring down the inside here because there's a collar on the outside. You'll see it when we're done. But anyways, let's take down some more of this material. Okay, we're done with the profiling the outside. This will be the boss, or the surface, that will go inside our carbon fiber tube. This will fit in there. However, it is not a press fit or an interference fit. It is actually quite a loose fit. There is a gap between this and the inside of this of about 5/1000ths of an inch. That is because we're going to bond it. We're going to use epoxy to bond this onto that. And you need to have a gap. You do not want it to be a press fit or a zero fit. You'll have a problem. So what we're going to do now is pull this off, flip it around, and then finish off the inside bore work. All right, I've got the part flipped in the vise, or sorry, the chuck. And I'm going to part off this end section here. I could have done that in the last operation, but I thought I would need it. down the road, but after I flipped it and put it in here, I realized I don't. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick this off. Here we go. So we picked off that nub on the end, faced it, put a nice little chamfer on it as well. But what we're going to do now is take the boring bar and take out some of this ID. As you see, the wall here is pretty thick. We do not need it that thick. We need it less than half that, in my opinion, to save weight. So we're going to take our boring bar, go in there, only going maybe about an inch, and remove some material. Here we go. All done with the boring bar, and as you can see, we've got a nice smooth internal bore. And what I've added as well is a 45-degree, I'll call it a chamfer, up into the threads, and then I've got a nice 10-degree chamfer here on the outside. So you get the theme here. This railguard nut is very thin at the outside end, but as you move into where it fastens to the barrel nut, it gets thicker because that's where the forces go up as you move in. So we can have it thin here, but we want it thick there. So what we're going to do now is take it out. We need to take it over to the mill and do some work on it there. All right, there is actually more work that needs to be done on both the handguard and the handguard nut, but I need to do that, or I think it's going to be easier to do once I assemble them, which is by epoxying them. By the way, side note, if you notice on the, I didn't show this on the other video, but on the handguard nut, I just went ahead while I was on the lathe and added these grooves. That's going to give the epoxy something to bite on. So what we got to do now is clean the bejesus out of these parts. Whenever you bond them, you want them clean and then clean again. Rough sand this, rough sand the inside of your tube. There is still probably release wax or compound in these, in the inside of these from when they were manufactured. So you need to sand that out, sand this, clean the crap out of them. I'm going to clean this with acetone, probably use something a little more mild. Acetone might react with the carbon fiber. And then I'm going to use some epoxy. The guys who sell the carbon fiber tube have these little small packets of epoxy, which are great because you only need a little bit, and if you buy big tubes or big jars of it, they can go bad after a while. So I just get these little guys for little projects like this. So the next shot you're going to see is I'm going to assemble all this actually on the receiver and the barrel, so it all lines up. Now here's one thing I'm going to show you right now is I've already done that, assembled this on the barrel, and the barrel was pretty centered on the end of this. Pretty darn centered, but not centered enough, in my opinion. So remember that spacer we made to cut this flush? Well, here it is with a hole punched in it. That is a couple of thou bigger than the diameter of the barrel. So I'm going to use this as a holding fixture. So when we have this all assembled and bonded down here, I'm going to insert this with the barrel sticking out, and the barrel and this spacer are going to act as an alignment. So when the epoxy is dried, I'll remove this. That barrel will be in the middle of this handguard. That would bug the hell out of me if that barrel was not in the middle of that handguard. It would look cheesy. It would be cheesy. I don't want to be cheesy. So I made this little spacer. It took a little time. The tape is just merely to keep it from falling all the way in. So anyways, next shot is going to be this whole assembly bonded and fixtured up. All right, so here is the handguard assembly bonded and fixtured up as it's set. So I'm gonna try to not touch it as much as I want to. So anyways, what we've got is, I used, by the way, 2 of these epoxy little small packets, not 1. 2 is what it took, and even then there wasn't a lot left over. Put the epoxy, again, clean the bejesus out of the aluminum using acetone. I used rubbing alcohol on the guard, sanded everything, then cleaned it. Put the epoxy on both surfaces, lowered this down. Of course, a bunch squirted out. I had to clean that off. Once that was all fixtured on there, my little spacer here was dropped in place, and that's making the center of this barrel concentric with the handguard, which is key. I did mount everything in the receiver and the barrel nut and all that, so everything was locked in place as it would be assembled. So once this sets and dries, we're going to take this assembly over to the mill and set up my fourth axis or rotary table, do some, I guess we'd call it some rotary work on this part. So that's coming up next once this sets. All right, for some reason there is no audio on this video clip. I always wondered how that happens to other YouTubers, and now I know it can happen to me. So here I am with the bonded up assembly on my fourth axis on my Bridgeport. This lets me rotate it and indicate it. And so what we're going to be doing here is putting the wrench flats on the barrel nut right there. Now that what I'm pointing at now is actually an adapter, a taper adapter. The taper on the tailstock is too small and doesn't fit into the barrel nut. So I laid up this adapter and that holds it in place and nice and centered. And I don't know why I'm tapping it so much, but I am. There it is. All right, we put tape on the end to protect the carbon fiber. We used a 4-jaw chuck on my fourth axis. We are going to rotate it. I have actually already gone ahead and made all the other flats. This is the last flat and the last cut, just so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to make sure that this 40 millimeter flat wrench that I have from the bicycle guys will fit. It's perfect fit. So here we go. Okay, we are all done with those passes. Let's see how our 40 millimeter flat wrench fits. And it fits snug, which is what I wanted. We want to be able to put some force on this nut, and it is aluminum and it is thin, so we wanted a snug fit. So there you go. I am not sure what else I'm talking about here. Let's see, I had a ham sandwich for lunch with some chips and I think a nice glass of water. So there you go. We're going to just run with that until this video clip is done. All right, I almost forgot. I was getting ready to tear this down. I am drilling 3 holes at 120 degrees off, 3/16 holes to take split pins or spring pins. I'm kind of a belt and suspenders guy. As much as I appreciate a bonded joint, I like a mechanical backup. So I just drilled these 3 holes. I've already done it. There's one. And I'll be then at assembly driving in some 3/16 split pins. That should make this rock solid. All right, we are done with the new handguard. Here it is. I decided at the last minute to not cut the slots in the handguard for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to be a big mess. 2, I would have to figure out a way to deburr it on the inside and the outside, because that's the problem with carbon fiber. Even this end here has got some issues with burrs. So I decided not to. And also I figured, I did a quick calculation, the weight savings was going to be marginal. So I left it as is. Obviously those slots would help with cooling, but this is not a rapid fire rifle. This is a hunting rifle. Done right, I shoot it once. So anyways, there it is. Maybe on a part 2 of this, we'll re-look at this. But anyways, there's the old setup at 0.938 pounds. Let's take a look at the new one. And it is coming in at, come on, stop rolling. There it is, 5.7 ounces. As always, I did the math for you. The original factory handguard setup is 9.38 pounds. The new system is 0.356. We saved almost a sixth of a pound. 0.582 pounds was saved. That's huge. That is giant. That is going to help in our goal here. So there you go. The new handguard. It feels silly light too. This will just thread on to that barrel nut. I've got my flats here for the wrench to crank it on. We'll see how that holds up. And let's keep moving forward.